A very good afternoon and welcome back to Tab York Live. I'm Elliot Rich and I'm here again to introduce a number of prominent business owners for short interviews on a very important topic. And this week I'm delighted to be joined by Max Reeves from the Helmsley Group. And we're going to be talking about a topic very close to all our hearts. It's the future of the high street here in York. Max, good afternoon to you.
Hi Elliot, are you well?
Yeah, great to see you. Max, we're going to be touching on our subject in just a moment, but maybe just to put things into context, if you want to provide a very brief overview of the Helmsley Group.
Yeah, absolutely. So Helmsley Group, we're a York-based company. We've been developing around here for 40 years, as of this year actually. We've got an investment portfolio which is across the country and across sector. We've got no bank borrowing on any of our portfolios, so all our properties are owned outright, and we fund them through a stable of high net worth investors for a model of syndication. The development side of our business is focused in York, and again, it's across different sector. Over recent years, we've done a lot of permitted development from office to residential conversions, or on the residential side, we tend to focus at the top end of the market. We don't tend to get involved in the middle market of mass housing or anything like that. Over the past 12 months, our acquisition strategy has very much been focused on staying locally around York, and particularly in York city centre, looking at some of the opportunities within the high street.
Super. Well, that brings us nicely onto our topic, as we're going to be talking everything about the high street here in the city. And it's been, one very difficult year for the high street, for retail. There's been a lot of stop and starts through lockdown, and our viewers will be very interested in your perception of how York is going to respond in the coming weeks post lockdown after quite a turbulent year.
Yeah, well, I think from our perspective, one of the legacies of this pandemic is that it's given people the knowledge and comfort that they can work from different locations. And in this regard, York finds itself in a really enviable position, offering a real competitive advantage over a lot of other destinations as a destination for visiting and for working. York City Centre is vital to our strength as a city. Now, we all know that the way city centres are going to be enjoyed are going to change going forward. Every day you open the newspaper and see another story of a retailer struggling. Only just now I saw in the paper that John Lewis are leaving York, which is a bit of a shame. Wow. Retail rents are going to reduce, but this allows opportunities. It allows new entrants to come into the city centre and retail offerings to evolve. But fundamentally, people are going to want to keep coming into York and living in this great city, which is an attraction in its own right. You might also have seen on the news last week that York was voted number 6 of the most Google's the right word, on Rightmove places where people want to live over the country. Additionally, York's high street itself has proved itself very robust over the past 12 months, coming in number 8 in a study of the most resilient city centres in the country, on a study that was very southeast biased. So wherever city centres around us will struggle, York can thrive, drawing in people from a wider attraction who want to spend the day experiencing York as a city centre. And what we expect to see and are seeing at the moment is a lot of ownership of retail property moving out of the hands of remote multi-billion-pound funds down in London or overseas, and into the hands of more local property developers like ourselves and our others who are more proactive in wanting to see these areas and floors and buildings re-engineered to move into what is the next stage of the high street.
Right, okay.
What is interesting is there really is a tangible demand for people to invest in York going forward, particularly even now, occupier demand and new entrants, I say, both on retail and leisure side. So it's quite an exciting time for the city.
Thank you, Max. Yeah, I think we're all watching very closely. It's such an important part of our landscape, the city of York. And that's really why I'm interested in some of your activities and the opportunities looking forward for the regeneration of the high street. So much is planned to change in the coming months and years. Really interested to hear what the Helmsley Group are doing to be at the forefront of that.
Yeah, so I think the way we've looked at it as Helmsley Group, the last 12 months is an opportunity for us to buy some real estate in prime city centre York, which would have been unattainable only a short few years ago. As a developer, the Helmsley Group in York have acquired or developed a large number of landmark buildings on the river in York. If we work our way down the river, we've got Westgate's apartments by the train station, Lendal Tower, Merchant Exchange, Bonding Warehouse. Recently, we've just done the fire station. Now, one of the things that's missing from York City Centre, and it has been a long-held aspiration, is that York has never made the most of the asset that it has in the River Ouse. At present, the city centre turns its back on the river. You only get down Coney Street, and the back of all those areas are derelict and a complete mess. Now, for the first time in recent history, we've managed to assemble, in conjunction with a number of stakeholders, a site in York City Centre, which will create the opportunity to activate a large part of the riverfront in the city centre. Alongside this, a reimagining of Coney Street and what the city centre itself will look like. So the last 12 months, we've been working very closely with the council and other stakeholders to drive forward these opportunities that will come out of the back of the negative effects that COVID has had on the high street. Another major focus for York, for us as the Helmsley Group, has been looking at the upper floor retail and bringing this vastly underutilised space into something that is used. Now, this has been a long-held aspiration and much talked about plan in the city centre for a long time. But now is the opportunity with COVID, and as I say, the transfer of ownership out of multi-million pounds funds into local developers to really push this forward and drive beds into the city centre, whether that's residential or hotel. It's all about getting people into the city centre and driving life. York Council and other major developers in York have some really exciting large regeneration schemes in York. We've got York Central, we've got the Southern Gateway, we've got the Roman Quarter, Gasworks, some very big schemes. It's a real time of change in York. But if York is going to thrive going forward, it needs an active and attractive city centre. Without that, York fails as an attraction, and we will struggle along with everybody else.
Yeah, absolutely. Thank you, Max. I can hear the passion coming through there, and I think we equally share your enthusiasm. To see York regenerated, to see a very strong footfall, to be able to sit and eat and drink and live in the heart of the city. So really looking forward to seeing what emerges in the coming months and possibly even over a longer period as well. Such an important part of the way of life in the York city centre. That's pretty much all we're going to have time for this week. But a huge thank you, Max, for joining me and sharing your thoughts and insights. We will be back next week with another special guest. I'll be talking to Luke Norbury. Luke owns the regional franchise of Home Instead. And Home Instead is a really important topic. It's all about domiciliary care, looking after our loved ones and the elderly and the vulnerable in their own homes. But from Max and myself, thank you very much for joining me. A big thank you to you, Max.
Thank you, Elliot.
Look forward to seeing you next week, and have a great week. Thank you and goodbye.